Nebraska's got their guy. Kenny Minchey will be the next quarterback of the Cornhuskers. Psych! Look, we've seen plenty of madness in college football recruiting over the last many years. Flips have not been uncommon. I don't know that I've seen this one before. Will Stein is going to be the new head coach at Kentucky and might very well be on the precipice of making a splash. Because the backup at Notre Dame, Kenny Minchey, went into the portal. Why? Because he's not going to start over C.J. Carr next year. Because C.J. Carr, as we all know, is very good. So he goes into the portal. And by the way, I think we can all agree that Kenny Minchey is the type of guy who the portal was kind of made for. It's not that he isn't good. Look at Steve Angeli. He went to Syracuse, was doing great, and unfortunately he got hurt. But he too was Notre Dame's backup. They had other good guys in the room, and he found an opportunity to play. And it was helping Syracuse, and then unfortunately the year went off the rails for Fran Brown. I think they'll bounce back as long as Angeli or whoever's playing quarterback can come back and stay healthy. But Kenny Minchey announces he's going to Nebraska. I jotted down in my notes, well, make sure you talk about that this week, because Dylan Raiola isn't there anymore. He was going to be the savior of Nebraska football. Remember when Dylan Raiola was quarterback for Nebraska and they were 6-2 and they were beating USC in the third quarter at home in their blackout game? Yeah, it's all gone downhill since then, beginning with the Dylan Raiola injury. So, which is something I didn't mention about Sam Levitt, by the way. I think that's part of the reason he's been one of the last guys to find a home. I think folks are doing their homework on the medical situation there. But Kenny Minchey was going to Nebraska, and then all of a sudden reports came out late on Monday night. He might flip to Kentucky. Well, that'd be quite a splash move for Will Stein trying to make a big entrance into the SEC as a head coach in 2026, as he is preparing, of course, for the college football playoffs at the Peach Bowl in the national semifinal on Friday night. Yeah, none of this makes any sense. Now, why are a couple of programs in the two best conferences in the country seeking his services? Tyler Wojak of Locked On Irish tells us why.
Former Notre Dame quarterback Kenny Minchey is one of the most underrated names in the transfer portal. Minchey is a talented dual-threat quarterback who narrowly lost a quarterback battle to C.J. Carr, and Carr went on to prove that he was as good as any quarterback in the country this past season. What stood out to me, just as much as the talent, was how Minchey handled that entire situation. No noise, no drama. He stayed ready, stayed supportive of C.J. Carr and the rest of his teammates, and he showed he is the kind of teammate that every locker room needs. And when Minchey did get his opportunity in relief of Carr, he delivered every single time. He completed 77% of his passes for 196 yards, and he added value with his legs, averaging 12 yards per carry and had a rushing touchdown as well. Now, with his future likely headed toward the Kentucky Wildcats after receiving strong consideration from the Nebraska Cornhuskers, whoever lands Minchey is getting a very capable quarterback who can win games, elevate an offense, and lead a locker room. This is a player that people are sleeping on, but they shouldn't be.
Well, we're not sleeping on him anymore because now Tyler has told you all of the things that you need to know. Where does he wind up? I guess we'll find out as the week goes on. Will Stein's trying to get ready for Bryant Haynes' defense, the best probably in all of college football, and also figure out who his starting quarterback will be. Oregon's backup Austin Novosad's in the portal. Will Stein recruited him, has had him in his offense for the last 3 seasons. Is that a fallback option at this point? I mean, certainly you wouldn't go get a guy like Kenny Minchey if you felt like Novosad was already going to be the starter. Because remember, Cutter Boley, who's super promising at Kentucky, is going to Arizona State. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Penn State won't have to wait and see on who their quarterback will be because it'll be Rocco Becht. And this was among the most predictable quarterback transfers in the country. This is in there with the lack of surprise as Byron Brown's inevitable transfer to the Auburn Tigers will be from South Florida. Rocco Becht, a 3-year starter at Iowa State, durable, solid, capable, knows Matt Campbell, knows what the expectation is, knows how to play, and the type of offense that Matt Campbell wants to run. There's no serious downside here if you're a Penn State fan, because Rocco Becht is a guy that has won at a school far more difficult to win at than the one he is now playing for. So in theory, though Penn State has had some pretty notable transfer departures. Their linebacker, Amari Campbell, they've had a former 5-star tight end go in the portal. Their transfer edge rusher, trying to think of his name, I'm going to go to it here because I know he's going to be a big-time player somewhere. But Chaz Coleman is one of the highest-rated players available in the transfer portal at defensive end / edge, 6'4", 246 pounds, grades as a 5-star transfer on 24/7. They've lost a fair amount of guys. They're bringing in their Iowa State crew, and I don't think that year one with Rocco Becht or any of those Iowa State guys is going to be the best version of Penn State under Matt Campbell. I really don't. I don't think you have an Indiana situation here. I think Penn State will be a solid team. Rocco Becht gives you a really high floor because he's proven to be a winning quarterback that makes winning plays. He's not a guy who is at his best when he has to drop back and just go win the game for you himself. He's going to make that winning play. He's going to manage the game really well. He's not going to, do what Trinidad Chambliss did against Georgia in the quarterfinal game. He's not that type of guy, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. This is not me saying Rocco Becht is terrible. I like Rocco Becht. I think easily one of the top 7 or 8 quarterbacks that have hit the transfer portal this cycle. Very high floor, not the highest ceiling. Compare that to a guy like DJ Lagway, who has a much higher ceiling, but a much lower floor. And I think with what Penn State just went through as a program, Matt Campbell coming in, yeah, he's on an 8-year contract, so no matter how year one goes, he's going to be coming back for years 2 and 3 and probably 4 and maybe even 5. Regardless, obviously disasters can strike, but I think that Rocco Becht gives you the ability to come in and buy equity with the donors, with the administration, with the fan base, and in the locker room, frankly, as well. Because you can come in, start Rocco Becht at quarterback, and he's going to do well. He's going to do well. I don't think he's, automatically a top 3 quarterback in the Big Ten or anything like that. I mean, I'd rather have Josh Hoover, who's going to Indiana. If Dante Moore comes back to Oregon, I'd rather have him. I'd rather have Julian Sayin at Ohio State. But is he at the bottom? No. I think he's close to middle top-ish of the conference. Like, I'd probably rather have Damon Williams over at Washington than Rocco Becht. I think this is more just a testament to the caliber of a quarterback conference that the Big Ten is putting together for 2026. I mean, it feels kind of Big 12-ish. And by the way, they've got one of the former Big 12 guys in there in Josh Hoover going to Indiana, which, as I talked about on yesterday's show, is a really, really good fit. So, there are certainly some other pieces to fill in around Rocco Becht if you're going to have, a 9-10 win season. You look at the roster they had last year, for instance, when they went to the Big 12 championship game, lost to Arizona State. He had 2 NFL wide receivers out there and 1.5 NFL caliber running backs as well. So I think that what Matt Campbell will do at Penn State is something the Nittany Lion fans will like. I think Rocco Becht will be serviceable. He's your classic bridge quarterback. He's going to go out there and probably win you somewhere between 7 and 9 games in year one. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Rome or a great college football program, not built in a day.